We're back, finally. It's been some days since we've had a video. It's been some days since we had a live stream. But look, today was a big press conference. We learned a lot. It was less about learning because there were some things that there were some rumors about over the past couple weeks, more about confirming. But because we got some confirmation, I had to come on here and share some of my thoughts and see what you guys are talking about. Because, you know, there were 5 interviews today, I think. We had Heinrich Harburg, Gabe Ervin, Matt Rhule, Ethan Piper, and I think Luke Reimer. So I'm going to be honest with you. Had a busy day. I only got to watch 2 of them, but that's why you guys are here. You're here to fill me in on what Gabe Ervin had to say, Ethan Piper, and Luke Reimer, because, you know, I'm trying to make sure I get to you guys before you go to bed. I know it's already 6:45 over there in Nebraska, and you guys can't wait up all night for me to get onto my stream on my California time. But what's happening? I have been excited this past week because we've gotten a lot of content. The last time we talked on the stream, one of the points of emphasis was, what if we could get more content out of the football program? Kind of like how Colorado does, right? And what if we get kind of a Hard Knocks vibe or some interviews or something? Let me tell you, Nebraska has delivered. First, if you didn't see it yet, I'm going to make sure you guys watch it, which I'm sure you have. There's 45,000 views on this video. You've got a roundtable conversation with Tom Osborne, Matt Rhule, and Trev Alberts. That was 4 days ago. It was really freaking good. One of the points that was made in this video was by Tom Osborne, who said that Nebraska, who in the past has struggled to land better recruits because Nebraska doesn't put out 5 stars because it's a smaller state, we need to be a school who can develop really good players. Matt Rhule agrees with that, but you know what Matt Rhule also agrees with? He agrees with the philosophy of Alabama, USC, Georgia, Texas, the big schools, and getting the best players that he can to his program. And this week, Nebraska is going to have the biggest. I don't think there's a way to argue this. The single biggest recruiting weekend in Nebraska football history. We're going to get through it. We're going to go through all the recruits. I'm going to pull it up really quick just to give you guys a teaser. Look at all these recruits. We'll talk about a few of them. Just look at that. That's the list. I think there's like 14 4 or 15 4 and 5-star players on this list. So we got to talk about some of them. It's just a really good time to be following Nebraska football. It's a really good time to be getting excited. And although I don't think Nebraska is going to have a massive swing this year from 3 wins to 9 wins or 10 and go to some huge bowl game and, you know, do what we want them to do ultimately, I do think we're going to see progress. And I do think that this is the coach who can get Nebraska back on track. So got some things to talk about. First off, Galactus, Connor out here with those Carricker arms. You know, I've been working out a little bit. I'm gonna be honest. Also, my mouth might be a little funny. I might sound funny. I got Invisalign 2 weeks ago, trying to make sure my teeth are perfect for you guys. So I think I've got a little bit of a lisp. I've noticed that because my tongue keeps hitting the bottom of this thing. So if I sound funny, that's why. Anyway, Nightmare says, was it me or was Gabe Irvin yoked? I was like, Jaquez who? Irvin's always been yoked. That guy's a beast. He's 220 something. He's one of the fastest guys on the team. That's something we'll talk about because Matt Rhule mentioned that today. And at this point, we might have a guy who, I wouldn't call him a challenger. I would call him the front runner to be Nebraska's running back one next year, which is serious after he's come off that ACL 2 years ago and had to compete with not Jaquez yet, Anthony Grant and AJ Allen last year. So anyway, I want to talk about some press conference notes to start off the show today because there were some things I really liked. The first one was that I think this year, as in year one, is more about fixing the culture. It's more about getting everything established, making sure the coaching philosophy is ingrained in these players and they understand what the goal is going forward, right? One quote that I took away from Rhule, he mentioned it multiple times in his interview, but he said, I don't know if we're good or not, but we're a very coachable team. He wants to establish the standards. He wants to execute and not beat themselves. He mentioned that the team was on time at 5 a.m. this morning. Everyone was dressed and they were doing what they were supposed to do assignment-wise, right? So he looks at this as a team who knows what their objectives are, knows what their goals are, and they're all doing whatever they can to be in a position to make this coaching transition smoother. I think that's the best way to say it. Quote, if we can establish the standard, then the talent will take over. The way I viewed that was he's not too worried about what talent he's got on that field right now. He's not too worried about the individual players. Obviously, Matt Rhule is going to recruit, and he's going to get guys to change positions, something else we'll talk about in a minute. He'll find guys to fit in where he needs them to fit in is the point. But right now, it's about making sure that all the coaches are on the same page, that the lingo is good to go, that everyone understands what the roles are in practice, and that there's some formula to getting things done the right way. So we knew this was coming. We didn't expect Matt Rhule to come in and just turn the lights on and Nebraska was going to win 9 games this year. But the fact that he was able to come in and, outline what he's seen good so far made me a little bit more comfortable. It made me a little bit more confident that this team can do some good things next year. And when I say some good things, I mean get to a bowl game. That's the bare minimum, I would say, at this point. I wouldn't be upset if Nebraska only won 6 games. I would be upset if they only won 5 games, but I wouldn't be upset if they only won 6. If they won 7, I'd feel pretty good about the trajectory where things are going. But the point is, knowing that they've got something set up, that they have a plan, that it didn't feel like the last staff had. It didn't feel like the last staff had as much experience as this staff does, which they didn't. You had Scott Frost, who was only a head coach for 2 years before he came to Nebraska. His staff didn't hold any big-time jobs before they had come to be assistants here. And you look at this Matt Rhule staff, multiple former NFL coaches, guys who've coached at least 3 big-time schools in Temple, Baylor, and now Nebraska. And then obviously some had been at Penn State, some had been in the NFL, whatever. I'm not going to go through all of them individually, but you guys understand the point. These coaches come with more experiences, and I read a comment somewhere, I think it was on Twitter, and someone said it feels like they're adults. And people say that all the time now. It feels like this coaching staff is an adult coaching staff. It's a coaching staff who understands what it takes to win, and because they're all aligned, we can all feel a little bit more confident. Anyway, I'm going to get to chat in 1 minute. Let me just get through a couple more points that I really liked. He said that there's a lack, this is a quote actually, there's a lack of coachability in the world today, and we have a lot of guys who are coachable. One point that I thought was really interesting was that he was talking about how first he called them kids and he changed it to men. He said that kids today have some issues because you've got social media that amplifies everything. If you drop the ball, if you make one mistake, you slip, you're a meme, you're made fun of, and it's a total joke. And if you're in practice and you make those same mistakes, it can feel a little bit overwhelming, I'm sure. Obviously, I didn't grow up in that social media world as much. I did a little bit, but not as much as guys are today. There was no TikTok, and Instagram was barely a thing when I was in high school. But guys have to overcome that, right? And so because he's trying to figure out how to make sure that guys are all mentally in check, it's going to help them down the line with becoming better players in practice and becoming ultimately better players in games. So there were a lot of positives on that front from Matt Rhule. This is a takeaway that I want to make an entire video to dive into, but the running back room, based on what Matt Rhule said today, is the strongest position group on offense. Quarterback room is also really strong. He mentioned that he really likes what he's got there, and obviously we do too. But the running backs are extremely deep and extremely proven. First guy that was mentioned by name was Gabe Ervin, 220 plus pounds, one of the fastest guys on the team. He's, quote, the battering ram who can put teams away. Oh man, when I heard him say that, I was like, whoa, did Matt Rhule just speak straight to the entire Nebraska fan base? The entire fan base who wears those run the damn ball hats, the entire fan base who wants to see Nebraska get back to doing what they did traditionally. Run it straight down someone's throat, put a game away without, basically by playing a keep away like Wisconsin would, right? Like Oklahoma did in the past, which is something that Tom Osborne mentioned in his interview, that video I showed you at the beginning of this clip. Anyway, Matt Rhule mentioned 4 times last year Nebraska had the lead at the end of the game, and he insinuated that there wasn't a strong enough run game to close them out. And if Nebraska would have had a running back who could have finished for, 50, 75 yards at the end of the game, Nebraska would have won those. And you, myself, and every other Nebraska fan can fully agree with that. Nebraska was in the position with, Minnesota. I think they were up 7.5, and if they would have just had a run game and not had to rely on Chuba, who was clearly not ready to lead a game-winning drive, I think Nebraska would have been able to put them away. And they could have done that multiple times. Georgia Southern, Illinois, who else? I don't remember the other close game, but it doesn't matter. Nebraska lacked that running back, and it sounds like Gabe Ervin can be that guy. Gabe was given a lot of opportunity over the last 2 years. He's really well spoken. Obviously, he takes care of himself. He had that ACL injury, but he bounced back from it pretty well. He was the running back 3 last year behind A.J. Allen, but there was some bias because you had the other running backs coach, Brian Applewhite, who brought in A.J. Allen himself. And obviously, A.J. showed that he had a lot of potential to be a starting running back in the future, but it took away some opportunities from Gabe Ervin. So now getting those opportunities back is a huge deal. One of the reasons he's getting those opportunities back is because Anthony Grant has failed to live up to Matt Rhule's standards. And I don't know what those standards are outside of he's not living up to the academic portion, and he's not doing what else Matt Rhule would expect of him. They didn't get into details about what those things are outside. I'm sure it's being on time. It's responding to your teammates when they had all of those off-season, Olympics, the winter conditioning games. I'm sure that he was on a team that wasn't able to get a hold of him the same way some other guys were accountable and some other guys were available to their teammates. So because of that, Anthony Grant is now suspended for the time being. But here's the key. A lot of people are going to get excited about that keyword suspended. It's very temporary, it sounds like. He'll probably be back on the team. Matt Rhule insinuated that he could come back, and another name, Tommy Hill, can come back at any time as soon as Rhule feels like they're ready to join the team again. So Tommy Hill and Anthony Grant are both suspended, but that's very temporary in my eyes. The other 2 names at running back who were mentioned, and the running back conversation is a big deal now because one of the things that we had all said in this offseason was which running back is going to leave. You've got multiple starting caliber guys, Anthony Grant, Gabe Ervin, and A.J. Allen. AJ hasn't had a start yet, but he was a true freshman and only played in 4 games, but he flashed in those 4 games. So he was the one who I thought may stay if he was a number 2, but you really had a serious conversation between Anthony Grant and Gabe Ervin. Anyway, A.J. Allen has been impressive in his first few games as a true freshman. He was the second name that Matt Rhule mentioned, and now that he's being talked about again in these press conference interviews, it sounds like he's established himself as one of the more athletic guys in the room. You've got Rahmir Johnson, who's similar to him when we talk about agility and finesse, but I'm not sure that he's as powerful as A.J. Allen is. He was another name mentioned, and Rahmir, I think he said Matt Rhule said he flashed on tape or flashed in his film that he watched so far from these past couple years. So, we only really have 1 year of film on Rahmir Johnson since last year he didn't get to play much. But regardless, Matt Rhule really likes what he has in the running back room, and he's starting to see what we as fans know is there and that we hope can be optimized and can finally produce some yards, because Nebraska's run game was not as efficient as we would have hoped, at least after we saw those first 3 or 4 games of the season last year, and we thought we had gold on our hands with Anthony Grant. Anyway, a couple other names mentioned in today's presser were Chris Hickman, who's a tight end, James Carney, tight end, and Tyreek Johnson, who's a former 5-star corner who transferred in from Ohio State. All of those guys have left the team. James Carney and Chris Hickman, I would assume, are going to transfer because they didn't have much opportunity in this in that position group. And then Tyreek Johnson was a DB. Nebraska's DBs are super tough. He never made an impact at Nebraska. He might have played special teams a little bit, but he didn't really have a chance. So it made sense that he would leave. I think he's like 24 years old by now. So yeah, those were names that left the program. Then moving over to tight ends, he didn't talk about any guys individually outside of Fidone. Talked about Gilbert a little bit, but nothing detailed. The one thing he said about Fidone, which I thought was really interesting, but also really comforting, and I would hope you find this comforting as well. So Thomas Fidone's been limited in practice, even though he's healthy. And apparently Fidone's pissed off about that, which he rightfully should be. He ought to be, because last year he wanted to play, right? You had Mickey Joseph who said, or I thought it was Mickey Joseph, it was really the doctors apparently. The doctors who said, you're not ready to go. You had your ACL injury, I think it was 2 of them, and you just need to sit out, wait for it to heal completely. And now Matt Rhule has stepped in and said, hey, you're cleared to go, but I'm limiting you because I don't want to lose you. Because I understand the value that you have for this team. I understand how impactful you can be. And we already know Thomas Fidone's a freak athlete. How much spring training does he need outside of conditioning? How much spring training does he actually need? And is it worth the risk of re-injuring that knee? Once you have an ACL injury, there's obviously some other things that can come with that. Mentally, you're carrying that load of, geez, I had the most, debilitating injury that you can have. It takes you out for 6 to 8 months, okay, to get fully healthy. He's done it twice. Then you say, okay, is it worth me thinking about that knee injury and then either re-aggravating it or injuring something else when these spring practices honestly don't matter that much for a guy who's already going to be, I don't want to call him a starter, but we'll call him a rotator. Who else is going to play that position? It's really Gilbert and him as the 2 main guys. There's another name mentioned there, which we'll get to in a second. But my feel here is Matt Rhule knows what he's doing. He knows the capabilities for Fidone, and he doesn't want to run the risk of losing him because he's such a key part of this offense. And I applaud Matt Rhule in this situation because I don't want to lose Fidone again. It's been painful as a Nebraska fan to see such a highly rated, a guy who's so passionate about Nebraska. Remember, he could have gone anywhere he wanted in the country. LSU, Michigan, probably Bama. He came to Nebraska because he wants to rebuild the program, right? You want him on the field, and I'd rather preserve him. So shout out to Matt Rhule for feeling the same way. Speaking of tight ends, there's a name. I'm going to pull him up really quickly here. Let me screen share with you. Where is it? Whoops, click that. Screen share. Okay. Last year, Nebraska recruited this receiver, Janiran Bonner. I think he's from Georgia. He was committed to Georgia Tech, I think, and then flipped last minute. He was a top 350 or top 360 receiver, or top 360 player nationally, top 60 receiver in the country. 4 stars, okay? One of the best receivers. I think he might have been the best receiver in that class of 2022. Whatever. Didn't play at Nebraska much last year. I don't think he played at all. He might have been on the field for special teams, but we didn't see him. Matt Rhule said Bonner right now weighs 217 pounds. So you've got a guy who's 6'1", 6'2", 217. Rhule would ideally like to get him up to the 222 range, which is only 5 more pounds. It's very possible. Add a little fat over these next, 2 months, and he's good to go. He sees Bonner as a hybrid tight end, a guy who can come in and they can line up at running back, at tight end, at receiver, do a lot of different things. The first name that popped into my head when Matt Rhule started talking about Bonner being a flex or a hybrid tight end was obviously Jaheim Bell. So if you guys remember, Jaheim was the tight end at South Carolina who was a little bit of a do-it-all. I think he rolls at around 230 pounds. He ended up transferring to Florida State after Satterfield left, and I don't think that's as much about Satterfield as it is about him wanting to go play for a championship contender since he's a championship caliber player. But the point is this, Jaheim's stats at South Carolina, these last 2 years, he played in 12 games both years. He had 7 attempts rushing the first year, 73 the second year, and he had a combined total of 56 catches. And he had, 10 touchdowns playing running back, tight end, and receiver. If you watch highlights from South Carolina last year on offense, you'll see him line up in different ways. And he was a really effective tool to create mismatches. Bonner could potentially do the same thing. So it's exciting to hear that Matt Rhule's finding ways to creatively integrate all of his players, right? He's trying to get guys to switch into positions that'll help him win. There's another comment he made about that. What did he say? Here's the Rhule quote I like from that conversation. Quote, "I don't really move guys unless I really think they can help us at another position." Who was the player that he had at Temple? Who was it? Hassan Reddick. So I think he had Hassan Reddick, who was playing somewhere else. He moved him over to defensive end, and now Reddick, I think, is an all-pro guy for the Eagles. And Matt Rhule spotted that and wanted to make sure that that guy was in a position where he could thrive at the next level, not just in college. Because there are a lot of guys who can play in college and be successful, but they might be a better fit somewhere else. It's almost like if you had Heinrich Haarberg, who might not develop into the quarterback you want, but he's a really good athlete, and maybe he could thrive at outside linebacker or at tight end or somewhere else. Speaking of Heinrich Haarberg, they did a little interview with him today. You know, he's one of the 4, I think it's 6 quarterbacks right now on the roster on scholarship, right? Doing the math in my head. Yeah, 6. You've got 2 who aren't playing through spring, Casey Thompson and Logan Smothers. So you've got Chubba Purdy, Jeff Sims, Heinrich Haarberg, Richard Torres. If Haarberg doesn't make the cut for one of those top guys, he's willing, this is based on the conversation they had with him at the presser today, he's willing to switch positions, to go somewhere else where he can thrive and help the team. He said he could play offense or defense, and I don't know what position they're going to have him at if he doesn't play quarterback, but when Matt Rhule and this new staff at Nebraska traditionally moves guys around, they're doing the right thing for the player and the right thing for the team, and because they've proven it a few times before, it makes it really easy to convince the players that they have to make that shift, even though it's an uncomfortable conversation, because it's almost like, hey, you're not good enough to play for me here. And that's a hard thing to say, or it's a hard thing to hear, and a lot of guys' egos get hurt by that. But because there's some proof, some validation that it's worked before, I think more guys are willing to do that. So it's pretty exciting to hear. Dion says, Rhule is not asking for Haarberg to switch. That's not happening. I don't know why we're so adamant about that, Dion, because I think anything's possible at this point. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying it's a possibility, okay? Husker Power said, I heard he was going to transfer when Rhule was hired. There was conversation that Haarberg would transfer. He could have gone to a smaller school and played quarterback, probably. He didn't, and that's why if he didn't go to a smaller school to play quarterback, but he knew that he wasn't locked in to be the quarterback here, maybe there's an opportunity for him to go and play somewhere else. But you never know. He could develop into a really good passer. And if he does develop into a really good passer, then maybe he beats out a guy like Chubba Purdy, Logan Smothers, and end up as the number 3 behind Jeff Sims and Casey Thompson. And I don't want to cap him as a number 3, right? He could easily develop into a number 2. You never know what's going to happen. But anyway, interesting. Husker Head, Sup Connor, I like the no single digits. Have to earn them, which breeds competition and accountability. Any thoughts on this? Yeah, this was a question I had that I didn't get to ask anyone yet. What's the deal with the single digits? I saw that Jeff Sims was wearing number 14. He wore number 10 over at Georgia Tech, and I think he wore 10 in high school. I had guessed if Anthony Grant's going to wear 10 here, Jeff Sims would rock number 1, number 5, some other number on offense, right? A single digit, obviously, because the best players typically like to wear the single digits. That confused me when he was wearing number 14. It makes sense if Matt Rhule's saying no single digits. Is there confirmation? Was that said anywhere? I'd really like to know, because I did notice that in pictures. Speaking of pictures, let's go and look at the pictures really quick. Here's what we saw from spring ball so far. You got Billy Kemp up here. I can't tell who these guys are. Can't tell who this is. Might be a tight end. You've got offense versus defense. Omar Brown, Nash Hutmacher. And then I saw a couple others posted. Okay, here's a group photo. Looks like they're praying together. Gabe Irvin right here, who's just an absolute monster. I mean, we all know that Irvin's a monster. He's been that ever since he came to Nebraska. True freshman starter. Don't forget it. He was a 3-star recruit out of Georgia back in 21? Ended up getting the star right out the gate. I don't remember who he beat out. It doesn't matter. Regardless, Gabe Irvin has been a beast ever since he's been at Nebraska. He's now healed from that knee injury, and he's the guy to beat as of now. He's the bell cow that Nebraska can lean on to punch it in at the end. And here's a little bit more of a distance picture. This is where I was telling you Jeff Sims is wearing number 14. So, yeah. Pretty excited to see any content at this point. Like I said, there's been a lot of stuff coming out. Oh, let me show you guys another video clip to watch. So I had talked about wanting that Hard Knock style content, and we finally got some. This is a 6-minute, 40-second video. It's mostly of Corey Campbell. It's got a little bit of Matt Rhule in there as well, talking about conditioning, talking about team building, getting guys right, getting their bodies built out, and the transition from coaching staff, the old coaching staff to this coaching staff, and what they're working on. So this is a really good video to watch. This is the Hard Knock style content that we want. I definitely encourage, after we're done here, go check that out. To find it, you obviously just go to Nebraska'S page, and then it's the second video on here under videos. So really good content. We're so lucky that Nebraska has such a really talented media team and guys who can put those things together, because I want you to understand the work that goes into making a video like that. You don't just pop up some cameras and start recording. It's not like a vlog, right? They're scripting out what their video is going to be. It's produced. They had to say, we're going to get these specific shots and these workouts. We're going to sit down with Campbell here. We're going to sit down with Matt Rhule here. We're going to kind of guide the story here. They've got to ask those questions, because it's not like Campbell and Matt Rhule know what they're going to say off the top of their head. The media guys have to come up with that and say, okay, here are the questions, here's what we want to guide, and here's what the story of this video is going to be. Just so you guys know, this is a 20-year-old guy who makes these videos. He's freaking smart. Just appreciate what we get. Just saying. Okay, here. Comments up here, back to the numbers. Monty says the single digits are earned and players vote on who get them. Wow. When Matt Rhule was at Temple, the 10 toughest players on the team got to rock numbers 1 through 10. That's freaking awesome. I've heard you only get a single number for being one of the toughest players on the team. Players vote. Rhule did this at Temple and Baylor. That's freaking awesome. Cornhusker Corner says, what's up? Broke my 13-bet losing streak on Bro Throw last night. Thanks, Miami. Yeah, Miami was awesome. Miami last night beating Indiana was huge for me as well. I had a couple of units on them. Speaking of Bro Throw, just because you guys know that my Corn Craze content slows down in the off season since there's less to talk about and I still got to work. So Bro Throw was my sponsor all last year for the channel. And once the season ended, they came up with a partnership opportunity for me. So I've now taken over their YouTube channel. I make all their YouTube content. It's really good. And I help them build their brand. I do a little bit of their marketing. So I went on to, became a part of Bro Throw, a month ago about. I've already done 8 videos for them on their channel. And yeah, Bro Throw has been an opportunity that was afforded to me by you guys. So thank you for being so cool and signing up for the site when I was promoting it over the last 3 months of the season. Because it brought a really good opportunity for me, and it gave me some work because, like I said, I got to work and make money, and this has been a really good off-season opportunity. So shout out to everybody who's been participating. I don't even know what we call it, participating in the sponsorship by signing up to the sponsor's website. It was free to sign up, but the fact that you guys did it was really big for me in it, and it pushed them over the edge and made them think that I was a valuable asset to their company. So shout out to all you guys. Anyway. Judy, what's up? Hi, we missed you. Philip says, if Harburg is 10, I wonder what Grant will be. Well, you got to think about it. The toughest players, the guys who are going to play, are going to get the single-digit numbers, right? I'm assuming if Anthony Grant comes back and he earns, the respect of his teammates, the respect of his coaching staff, he'll probably be in line to be the number 1 or the number 2 running back. And if that is the case, I'm guessing Grant's going to wear number 10 because Harburg isn't on pace to play as much as Grant. Think of it this way. You had other players in the past who will wear single digits or other numbers, and you'll see them on the Husker roster website, right? Well, you'll never see 2 number 7s on offense at the same time. But if one guy's a walk-on and never plays, then the other guy can wear it, no problem, and they can both technically be number 7. Anyway. Mario, what's happening? He says he's going to get Dylan to commit. Mario is I think he's the team manager at Nebraska. I've got to talk to Mario on the phone a couple times. He's super cool. So glad you're in here, Mario. Sam says, do you think Tommy Hill and Anthony Grant stay on the team come fall? I do. I think that both those guys are going to get whatever issues they have worked out. It's probably mostly academic and just having to transition to a new coaching style, you know? And I think that these coaches are going to help them out and guide them back, you know, right into where they belong. So I'm not too worried about that. It's happening, Badger. Missed ya. Chris says Jape Applegate sounds like a tight end. Excited to see him develop. Yeah, was he playing defense last year? I don't remember what Rhule said in the presser about him and where he started off, but it does sound like he'll be playing tight end, so we'll have to see. Okay, guys, I got this package. So this is from Doug. Doug is a subscriber, and he reached out to me over email, and he said, hey, I love your content, and I'm a passionate Nebraska fan. Let me see where he's from. Hold on. I took a screenshot earlier so I wouldn't forget. He said that he owns a bar in southwest Nebraska near the Swanson Reservoir. It's called Buzz Express Liquor and Lounge. He says that he has one of the best collections in the entire state. So Doug contacted me and said he wanted to send me some things. And I said, okay, no problem. So I gave him my address. But I just felt like if I'm going to get something from a Corn Craze subscriber, I've got to open it with the Corn Craze community. It just wouldn't make sense for me to do this alone, right? So here's the box. I've never done an unboxing before, I don't think. But I'm glad I'm doing it with you guys. So we unbox and we open this up. And we've got a note on the top. Here we go. Hey Connor, sent you a little offense and a little defense. The jersey signed by the best O-line in college football history, the Pipeline, and Tommy Frazier. In my mind, the best defensive, in my mind, the best defensive front in college football history. Enjoy, Doug. Then he's got some names listed here. Okay, let's open this up and see what's going on. If you're still with me, we've got 365 people live right now. Hit the like button if you're here. It means a lot to me when you hit the like button because more people can find the video. And thank you for being here even though we haven't had content in a while. I know I haven't dropped a video since my Donovan Raiola prediction. What do I call that? My Donovan Raiola update prediction? I don't know. I dropped a video like 3 weeks ago. It was really good. But thank you for being here, even though I haven't been making as much content. Okay, wait. We're going to get to this jersey in a second. Hold on. We got this first. So I popped this out. Very nice. That's what he was writing here. Okay. So we've got Jared Tomich, Jason Peter, Christian Peter, and Grant Wistrom. The best defensive front in college football history in Doug's opinion. This is awesome. So we got the Peter brothers here with the autographs on that. That's great. Thank you, Doug. This is beautiful. You guys, there's some things that make my heart pump, and it's Nebraska memorabilia. This is freaking sweet. I love the old school. You got the Christian Peter tattoo on the bicep. Look at these freaking guys. These guys are beasts. Awesome, Doug. I love that one. Okay, then I know I had, where was it? Let me see. I had yep, there it is. Tom Rathman autographed card from the 49ers. So this was pretty cool. You guys know Tom Rathman. I actually have this card in my collection. I collected college football and NFL football cards throughout my whole childhood, and I would put aside the Nebraska card. So I had this exact card. I remember it because I put them aside. Don't have the autograph version, but now I do. So we've got the Tom Rathman autograph card to go with the Christian and Jason Peter autograph photo. Now, here is the national championship jersey. This is Aaron Graham, Rob Zaska, Joel Wilkes, Brendan Stye, and Tommy Frazier. There we go. 94 national champs embroidered on the back. Pull this thing out. Bang. The 94. And you've got all the signatures. Freaking awesome. Joel Wilkes, Aaron Graham, Tommy Frazier, Brendan Stye. Which one was this one? Rob Zaska. Or maybe Rob Zaska. Wait. I can't tell. I'm looking at it from an awkward angle. I can't tell what's what, but you guys can see it. Awesome jersey. You got the authentication right here. Doug, this is a fantastic gift. I appreciate it a ton. I can't wait to frame it up. So now I've got to do some more merch things, I think, or some more memorabilia things, I think. I'm going to have to show off some of the other things I have because, guys, I have an extensive memorabilia collection, and I love collecting anything Nebraska related, as I'm sure you guys do as well. Here's the t-shirt he sent me, Buzz Express. Whoa, I'm Buzz. So I like that. Whoa, I'm Buzz. So this is his bar. It's called Buzz Express, and that's in Southwest Nebraska. Hang on. Let me pull it up so I don't forget. Southwest Nebraska near Swanson Reservoir. The Buzz Express Liquor and Lounge. So thank you, Doug. I appreciate you a ton for sending all this over. It means a lot to me when anybody sends me anything. Email. I've gotten letters before. The Corn Craze community has been very cool to me. And here's the certification for the jersey. Yeah, the Corn Craze community has been very cool. And I would love to do some more stuff where I show you guys other Corn Craze community, memorabilia. So if you guys have anything that's cool, definitely fire it off to me on social media or on email, and I'd love to showcase it. Because anything interesting, I know Nebraska fans love to see it and talk about it. But yeah, Doug has a really extensive collection. He said he sells some things, so he said if you go to his bar, you can see all kinds of stuff that he collects. Anyway, thank you, Doug. You're awesome. That was great to show for the community. Okay. Let's get back here. Going back up to the top of chat. Weekend. JJ says bro throw won't work for him in the Philippines even with the VPN. It's so frustrating. All these gambling sites, it's hard to use VPNs. They don't like it. What's crazy is how many upsets there were in March Madness this week. I don't know if you guys are following. I only follow college basketball religiously during March Madness. I think it's really fun. So I did a bracket for the Corn Crazed Army, I guess we'll call it. I don't know what I called it on ESPN. Here it is. We're going to college basketball real quick because I did a tournament for Corn Crazed. We've got 80 plus users in here. I'm in 28th place. Not my best bracket. We've got whoever this is in first, Smitty in second, and Foe Dylan Raiola tied with him. Anyway, here's my bracket. The winner of this tournament challenge, the Corn Crazed tournament challenge, gets merch. So that's something. I did have Miami over IU last night, so I was happy about that. I had Xavier over Pitt. I've still got UConn alive. I had Arkansas over Kansas. So, I've had some picks. I'm a big believer in Kansas State going a little bit deeper. I think they're going to upset Michigan State. So, yeah, I've been following college basketball. I've been betting it on Bro Throw. And, yeah, I'm really enjoying the tournament this year. Even though, Nebraska's not a part of it and hasn't been for a while and may not be for the future. It is what it is. I'm enjoying what we do get. Matthew says, have there been any new crystal balls for Raiola to Georgia following his visit this past weekend? I haven't seen any. I did see a couple quotes. There was a quote saying that, what's his name? Mike Bobo sends daily texts to Dylan. I think a religious thing. I didn't read into it too deep, but I think he sends him something every single day. Whenever they said that Dylan talks to Lincoln Riley every day, that just sounded so whatever to me. People made that a bigger deal than it was. All of these coaches are talking to Dylan Raiola every day. He's one of the most coveted players in the history of high school recruiting. Matt Rhule is in his phone. Satterfield is in his phone. His uncle's in his phone. Mike Bobo's in his phone. Kirby Smart's in his phone. Lincoln Riley's in his phone. They're all in his phone every day, all the freaking time. I can't get too excited that Lincoln Riley is calling him every day. Of course he's calling him every day. All these coaches are. I'm not worried about those crystal balls. I'm not worried about all the nonsense that the media likes to push. All they want is clicks. They want me as a Nebraska fan to go and click every freaking video they have where they feed me no real valuable information. It's just regurgitated. And they just send it out to the masses because they know it makes money and gets clicks. I'm not interested. I'm not interested in your crystal balls. Nebraska is a front runner. We're going to get into this recruiting weekend. That's a lot of why I believe Nebraska's a front runner. But think of it this way. If your family is so tied into the program, your uncle's a coach, Your dad is a former All-American who loves this school like no other, and he's made sure that's been clear on all of the Nebraska podcasts he's gone on, okay? You're not going to lead on Nebraska fans who you know love you so much, who you know love you more than any other fan base in the entire country. I was at the national championship. I can promise you, he was not getting harassed by Georgia fans. If he was at the national championship and Nebraska was playing in it, there would have been lines of Nebraska fans standing there waiting to get a picture with him, right? He's not leading Nebraska on by taking all these visits, by flirting as much as he has been. Let's talk about how much he's flirted. Let's go look specifically. Hold on, I got a picture of it. This is some serious flirtation. February 25th, March 25th, April 22nd. In between there, he went to SC once, he went to Georgia Tech because it was there, and then he went to Georgia, 2 days ago? After Nebraska, he'll be at Oregon, and I'm sure he'll take another visit to SC or Georgia. Who knows what he's going to do? But the point is, he's not flirting with Nebraska this much and leading people on this much just to let him down. I think there's a really good chance in his own head that he ends up at Nebraska. I'm not guaranteeing anything, but I'm sticking by that 70% I put in the Dylan Raiola video. I'm sticking by that. I'm a true believer that Nebraska has a really good chance to land him. It's hard. I get so many questions. I get so many messages. I get so many comments all about, what do you think about Raiola? It's exhausting. It's a 17-year-old kid. I don't freaking know. What I do know is he's going to be here this next weekend with a bunch of other star players. When I say a bunch, I mean a freaking bunch. More than we've ever seen before. The number one quarterback coming to campus will also attract the number one defensive tackle in the country, who will also attract the number one offensive tackle in the country, the number 7 receiver in the country, the number 13 receiver in the country, the number 8 running back in the country, the number 10 tight end in the country, who we all know should be at Nebraska. Nebraska have to fight off some SEC schools. I don't know what the hell this Kansas State 12% nonsense is, but it's really going to come down to Bama, Georgia, Nebraska. The number 10 tackle in the country. And then you've got some other guys who are highly rated 4 stars, okay? I think I said 15 will be on campus. 15 4 and 5-star guys. Let's count them up together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. My bad. 16 4 and 5 stars will be on campus this weekend. Do you know what kind of energy that brings? Do you know how excited Dylan Raiola is going to be able to show off Nebraska? Because listen, if any school's his school growing up, it's Nebraska. He gets to come and show off how great this place is. I saw a comment somewhere talking about Brandon Baker, the number 1 offensive tackle in the country, who plays at Mater Dei, who's a teammate of Nathaniel Frazier, who also plays at Mater Dei, obviously. He said that he's really excited to come visit Nebraska. He's at Ohio State today. I checked his Instagram story just to see what the vibes were. At Ohio State today, then he'll be at Nebraska. I think he was at SC before that. Obviously, he only lives 30 minutes from USC, so he can go there anytime. But the fact that he is coming on a visit at the same time as Dylan Raiola, the number 1 quarterback in the class, sets a tone. I'm excited for this weekend because you've got multiple guys who have shown a little bit of interest, but they don't understand this coaching staff as well as they should. This coaching staff has been, for the most part, gone. They've been in the NFL. They've been defunct. They have not done anything in the last, 3 years in college? So because they haven't been around, these coaches have not gotten a chance to build those relationships. Well, they've done enough relationship building to get them on campus. And to get them on campus for a very big weekend. And how much persuasion, how much added value comes in when you actually get onto campus? Well, I would say, for an outsider, a lot. I mean, you guys all know, every time a player comes in, they all talk about, well, I thought Nebraska was going to be a bunch of cornfields. I came and it's this magical freaking place. Everybody knew who I was. Everybody wanted to talk about football. I saw red everywhere. This is where you want to play college football. Now, Nebraska's not going to win every one of these commitments, and that's fine. But they are making noise. They are making it known. They are coming for not only the 3-star guys in the Midwest, not only the local guys who they can get because they're easy to grab. They're coming for everybody. They're competing with the SEC. They're competing with USC, with Oregon, with Tennessee, Notre Dame, obviously the Kansas schools. They're competing with everybody for the biggest name kids in the country. I don't know what's going to happen, but I feel pretty damn good about where things are going. Those are my thoughts on this recruiting weekend. Like I said, I can't guarantee that we're going to see a commitment. I don't know what percentage of these guys will commit. Here, let's just predict a couple, actually. I will give you some predictions. Okay. Today, where it stands, I think Dylan Rhule'S comes to Nebraska. My personal opinion, if Dylan Rhule'S comes, I think there's a decent shot at Ryan Wingo, like a 30% chance. He's one of the top receivers in the class. He could go anywhere, but he was on the visit this weekend at Georgia with Rhule'S. So that means he's got some pull on his heart. Obviously, Brandon Baker coming, I think, because Rhule'S. So if Baker sees Rhule'S commit, he could end up coming. I don't think Waneri's going to come. I don't know anything about Pelham. Frazier's going to be tough because you have so many offensive powerhouses like USC and Oregon who can try and sway him. Carter Nelson, I think, comes if Rhule'S comes. I think might even come without Rhule'S. I don't know much about these guys. Gradney we already got. I think Nebraska gets Davon Hall, who's in state. I think Nebraska gets Mario Buford. Obviously a legacy because his brother is a current starting safety. I don't know much about Grant Bricks, but I would say Nebraska can probably get Grant Bricks, seeing that he's so close in Iowa. Isaiah McMorris, Nebraska should be able to get. Baganowski, Nebraska should be able to get. Ian Flint, they should be able to get. There are a lot of guys on this list. Caleb Benning, Nebraska's getting. They are getting him. This guy, Samisi Tonga, who just, I think, last-minute visitor, I think Nebraska can get him. So anyway, there's a lot of guys who Nebraska can potentially pull from this weekend. Not sure how quickly they commit. The sooner they commit, the better, because it'll start to provide momentum. There's only one commit so far in this class, but it's still early, very early, so I'm not too worried about it, but I am excited to see what happens and what's the wave that comes if one of these big-name guys says, you know what, I'm locking in, let's do this, and then he goes out and peer recruits. It's a big deal. Big deal when one guy says yes. Moonbot says there's no Dylan prediction needed. He's in. It's all for show. I think it very well could be. Okay, the chat is loading up. Okay, now chat just popped up. Judy, thank you for the $5 super chat. I appreciate you a ton. She said, speaking of merch, big shout out to you and your subscriber that sent me the corn craze stuff. The quality's absolutely top drawer. I can wear that sweatshirt to the North Pole. Judy lives in Iowa, so I had to send the hoodie out. Keegan reached out to me and asked me if we could send Judy a hoodie, so we did it. We sent her one, and I'm glad Judy has it. So Judy, we're glad you can rock that. I know it's cold over there. Dakota, thank you for being a member for 6 months. He says, any plans with Carricker for content? No plans yet. I haven't talked to him in a little bit, but I am going to try to get something going. I'm going to try to formulate kind of an outline for my content this year. Say what days the live streams are going to be. If you guys were around last year, you know the live streams kind of came up right before season. Yeah, I think right before season I did a few, and then during season I started to pick them up randomly. I'd like to get more of a schedule, and so if I can formulate a schedule, then I can start to plug people in. I'll get something on with Carricker. I don't know what his schedule is going to be like now because he's about to do, I think he told me 3 shows, but we'll do something together. It'll be good. Attila, thanks for being a member, and you've been watching my content for a long time. I appreciate that a ton. It's great to see everybody who has stuck being members, even though there's not as much to talk about. But I appreciate you guys all staying. It's still big. It's a big support for me. It means a lot. Nick says, which running back do you think becomes the starter? Rhule had a lot to say about Gabe Ervin Jr. Yeah, right now I would say Gabe's the guy to beat. Gabe is number 1. Number 2 is obviously A.J. Allen. And then Anthony Grant has to work his way back into the fold. I think Anthony Grant possesses as much talent as either of those two do. It's just which one is going to be the best fit for the system. Which one is the bell cow or the one that they think is the battering ram who can get things done. Right now, Gabe Ervin has running back 1 written all over him. So we'll have to see. Antonio says this is the best or the biggest recruiting weekend since. I don't know that answer. I can't remember any other massive weekends outside of one back in, 2017? Mike Riley had Bookie. He had Keyshawn Johnson Jr. He had, was it Micah Parsons? No, I think he was just at the camp. Anyway, there were a bunch of big guys during the Nebraska movement, and that might have been the biggest recruiting weekend. Tristan Gebbia, who else? I don't know. There were a lot of big guys from California that were all highly rated 4-stars, and Mike Riley did a good job of getting them all to come take a visit. Mike Riley, and it was that corners coach, Dante Williams, who's now at USC. That guy had a lot of pull. A lot of pull. Serial, what's up, Connor? Good to see you stream again. I'm wishing for some good recruiting news in the next few months to tide me over until the season starts. This weekend could set it all up. This weekend could be the weekend that is foundational for all the recruiting for the rest of the season. You get one or two of these big name guys in, and then they start peer recruiting. All it is proof of concept. If you say, okay, I know this coaching staff has a lot to offer me, and they've shown that they can get me to the NFL. Okay, I know there are some players who are flirting with the idea of Nebraska. Okay, one bought in. Okay, well, will another buy in? Number 2 buys in. Okay, I'm locked in. It's all of the pieces start to fall in, right? You start to see, okay, this ripple effect is now compounding, and I'm going to be a piece of this. Let's go. That's all it takes. The other part, an obvious part, one that we can't shy away from. Nebraska's got to win some games this year. They can't win 3 and expect to land any big name recruits. But the good news is, even if they have one of the worst seasons of all time, like they did last year, they're still capable of winning 6 games. How crazy is that? You could have one of the worst seasons of all time in Nebraska school history and still be a 6-win team. I think this team can do it. I think this coaching staff can do it. So I'm not too worried about the recruiting class when it comes down to the wins and losses, in October, November, and we get closer to signing day. It's going to be exciting. Greg, thank you for the $10 super chat. Appreciate you being a member as well. Cornhusker Corner says the peer recruiting impact of a Dylan Raiola commitment. A top 15 class inbound, maybe even top 10, especially if we can find success on the field. I think top 15 is very realistic with Raiola, right? To get to top 10, you'd need another 5-star, in my opinion. Like the offensive tackle or like one of those receivers. If you can get one of them, which when you bring in a 5-star QB, there's a good chance you can bring a big-time O-lineman or a big-time receiver. Yeah, the peer recruiting could set them into the top 10, which would be almost too much for me to handle. It would be so much positivity and it would be so overwhelming. We'd get back to the yelling stage of Corn Craze, back to when I would yell over winning games. It would be a lot for me to process and digest. So I welcome it. I'm down. I know you guys are all down. I guess we'll just have to see how it goes. Nick says Nebraska could definitely give Dylan his NIL value. So what's interesting is, and my guess is that every school will offer him the same NIL. Every school will match. They'll all say, okay, well, you can get $5 million in Nebraska or $6 million in Georgia, whatever it is. We have the boosters who are going to back that. We have the sponsors who are going to back that. It's kind of like when United Airlines, who's the field partner at USC, came in and gave Jordan Addison some massive deal to make sure they took him away from Pittsburgh. It worked. Nebraska doesn't have a United Airlines, but they got the Pede family, right? They got some rich people there, so they could figure it out. Matthew says, I'm also not worried about Raiola in Georgia. Just curious if the local recruiting beat guys would crystal ball him the way USC people did after his USC visit. I'm most worried about USC. I'd still be more worried about Georgia, if I'm being completely honest. USC is not a guarantee to play. USC is a guarantee to come in and compete every year against the best quarterback in the class. USC is a guarantee that you'll get there and you are not the quarterback forever under Lincoln Riley. You're the quarterback of right now until I find someone better, which is cool and it's how everything should be. But he's shown in the past that he isn't loyal to a 5-star, right? He's shown Spencer Rattler was a decent quarterback. I mean, yeah, he was a decent quarterback and he still got beat out by Caleb Williams. Not to say he shouldn't have lost the job, but the fact that every single year there's a guy knocking on your door, it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot to manage and deal with mentally. And if you're 18, 19, 20 years old, you can go somewhere where, yeah, we're going to go and try and get the best guy to replace you. But let's be real. Is Nebraska about to go and recruit a quarterback who is of that caliber? Probably not. So I'm still not as worried about SC. And I still feel like Nebraska has a really good chance. Just me, though. Just me. I don't know. Paul says, love Casey Thompson. Got to watch him at Texas in person, and as good as he is, I was happier than a puppy with two Peters. A puppy with two Peters. I don't know what that means, that we got him. Jeff Sims is the it factor, and he will need both. You know, I'm so torn. I think Casey has so much promise. I think Casey did a really good job last year with the situation he was handed. But Jeff Sims, you watch the combine, you hear all the chatter about that guy, Anthony Richardson from Florida. Wasn't the most accurate. Didn't make the best decisions. But what did he possess? He possessed the most, he was the most gifted athlete at quarterback who'd ever come through the combine, I think they said. He ran like a 4.4 340. He's 6'3" or 6'4", 240. Now, Jeff Sims isn't that big. I'm not even sure if he's that fast. But he's still on par. He's still a freak athletically. And when you possess those traits, and when you bring all that to the table, and you have a coach who likes to run his quarterback a little bit, that value will not go unnoticed. Casey Thompson has value as well. But he's like 5'11", 6 foot. He's like 200 pounds. Jeff Sims is probably 220. Jeff Sims is a little bit faster, I have to guess. Who knows who throws the ball further? But yeah, there's a lot to look forward to in both of those quarterbacks. I'm excited to watch. Attila says these streams always get me hyped for the future. Listen, I sell Nebraska hope over here. I can sell anything to anybody if I can sell hope for Nebraska. Let me tell you, I've been selling it for 2 years now. People buy it. I don't know why. I buy it myself. I'm my own worst enemy because I sell myself on this Kool-Aid every single year and I get all excited and then, you know, I beat my head in with a hammer by the end of the year. But yeah, I'm glad that you're on the same page as me. I'm hyped for the future as well. I'm talking myself into it once again, and I will be doing it all off season. So just make sure you're tuned in because we'll be getting hyped all the way up till August, whatever the date is when we play Minnesota. Heroes of the Scape, thank you for being a member. The excitement is thick enough to cut with a knife. That's a fact. I think we're all on the same page, and I think it's important we establish this. We do not expect 8 wins. We do not expect 9 wins. We expect a bowl game. It's a fair expectation, let me tell you. We expect a bowl game, and as long as this team can perform to that level, we have a great football season. We all enjoy it. We don't want to go out back afterwards and, you know, deal with it. We all feel good. We can go to bed at night knowing we don't have to win every single game. But because we're seeing improvement, it was a fun season. It takes a lot for me to accept 6 wins. It takes a lot for me to be happy with 6 wins, right? But given all that we are seeing so far, I would feel good about it. And if we drop a few along the way, it is what it is. It's all good. I'm just excited to see the improvements. So we'll see how it goes. You're the man too, John. I appreciate you for being here. John says, I believe Dylan Raiola has already made his mind up, but is enjoying the process and playing it the right way. He very well could. I don't know if he's made his mind up yet, though. I don't know. I genuinely think he's interested in all of these schools, and he really wants to see. Minnie says, Gabe Ervin looked so cut today. I did not watch the Gabe Ervin interview. He always looks, not cute. He always looks cut when I see him, so I'll have to check that one out. Were there any notes that anyone saw from the Gabe Ervin interview that were worth talking about? I didn't see the notes. I didn't watch the video yet. I'll have to. Let's see. Red Wine says, a moron should be able to win 6 at at Nebraska. I'm on that basketball thing right now. So because NU has stood for Northwestern when I'm making all my bets through March Madness, NU is Northwestern. But no. NU is Nebraska. Any moron should be able to win 6 at Nebraska because last year there was, there was leadership, but there wasn't. I don't want to say Mickey and Bill Bush weren't competent, but they weren't supposed to go and win 6 games at Nebraska, and they very well could have. They were close to being able to do it. So, yeah, anybody should be able to win 6 at Nebraska, especially with all this talent. The chef says Winieri wants to stay close to home, which is why teams like Mizzou are high on his list, which should have a good chance once he gets on campus this weekend. That's interesting. If Nebraska is close to home, I mean, it is close to home because he's in Missouri, then maybe they actually do have a chance. I didn't know that he wanted to stay close to home. I haven't done much research on him yet. Greg says, love the enthusiasm you bring to us fans. So much better than any other content out there. Well, you know, this is where we all hang out, Greg. This is like going to the bar and hanging out with a bunch of other Nebraska fans. I'm not the media. I'm not someone making content just for, you know, clicks and shit. I'm making content for us to talk about it. So thank you for being here and being a part of it because, you know, you make it fun for me to do it. Paul says, are you going to the spring game? I'm not going to the spring game. I went to the spring game in 2017, I think. It was fun, but yeah, it's not. I live in California, so I've got to get on a plane, 2 planes. I got to go to Omaha, and I got to go to Denver, and I got to go to Omaha. And to do all that, and then to go down to the spring game for one day, it's a lot. So I'd rather save my trips for the football season. I think I'm going to go, well, I know I'm going to Colorado, and I think I'm going to go to, like, Michigan. So, a home game and an away game. Red Wine says, Casey would be better if he learned how to run a few yards for a first down if the pass isn't there. So, if you watch his film or his highlights back at Texas before he came to Nebraska, he knew how to run a few yards for a first down. He was limited because of what the offense was last year. He was limited because Mark Whipple didn't want him to run. He wanted him to stay in the pocket. Casey has the capability that Jeff has. I don't know if he's as quick or as fast, but he can run, and he's shown it in the past. So this staff's going to get that adjusted, and Casey's going to be more of a running threat this year than he was last year. And we're going to see a lot less of that taking sacks in the pocket than we did under Whipple. I am almost certain of that. Minnie, thank you for the $20 super chat. Look at what Satterfield did with Rattler, something Riley couldn't do. Satterfield did make Rattler a competent quarterback at South Carolina. He had less weapons. He didn't have as good of an offensive line. He didn't have as good of a team in general, and he played against tougher competition. Rattler still performed at a pretty high level, a level where people think he can still be an NFL quarterback, right? Satterfield's the one who's taken a little bit of that, I guess you can say, credit. Obviously, Shane Beamer has something to do with that as well. But when you see Rattler go over to South Carolina and become a successful quarterback after having so many issues at OU against lesser competition with more weapons, it really makes you think. And if you're the Raiola family, it'll make you think, maybe Satterfield does have some proven quarterback development skills, right? He found ways to make Rattler work. And yeah, it shows that he can, I don't want to say compete with Riley because we're not going to compare those two people, but we will say that he's a competent quarterbacks coach. So it's exciting to think about. Thank you for the 20, Minnie. Corner says, if you need something to tide you over for the season, Bill Bush is on the Husker radio or on the radio every morning. He's hilarious. I have not seen that. I've seen him talk in some interviews and do some things, but I didn't know he's on the radio. I'll have to go and look. Let's be honest, we have adults as coaches now. Nebraska goes 8-4 next year. I think 8-4 exists. I'm not sure if it's realistic, but I think 8 wins exists. I did put my way too early prediction out there, like in January, and I said 8-4. So it's possible in my eyes. Husker Tin Man. Curious question. With Tony White's new defense, do you think his 3-3-5 stack will be enough to stop teams such as Michigan, Wisconsin, and now even Illinois, who are tough up front? Okay, first off, Illinois lost their defensive coordinator. They will be taking a step back defensively. They will. They're going to be tough. I mean, tough for the Big Ten, yeah, whatever. Tough for the Big Ten West. Sorry, not the Big Ten. But Illinois is not in the same conversation as Wisconsin and Michigan, in my opinion. Oh, we're talking about offense. I was talking about, let me go back. Let me reset that statement. Okay. Curious question. With Tony White's new defense, do you think his 3-3-5 stack will be enough to stop teams such as Michigan, Wisconsin, and now even Illinois, who are tough up front. Illinois is tough up front, and they're going to continue being tough up front. But again, they're not going to be as tough up front as Michigan or Wisconsin. What was the quote? Hang on, it's coming back to me. Matt Rhule said he's not as concerned with scheme. He's not as concerned with the 3-3-5, the 4-2-5, the 4-3, because they all can win championships. And because they can all win championships, he's more worried about developing his players and figuring out how to get everyone on the same board or on board with the same program that they're trying to run, and then things will fall into place. So I'm not worried about the idea of the 3-3-5 stack. I'm not worried about if they're going to switch into the 4-3 or the 3-4 or how they're going to line linebackers up, because none of that matters as long as the defense is all on the same page, as long as you have really good athletes and they're executing whatever this staff wants to execute, right? What was the, I'm trying to think, there was a guy who talked about it, not Josh Pate. Can't remember. I'm not going to bring it up because it's too off topic without a direct quote. Anyway, I'm not worried about the 3-3-5. They're going to line multiple guys up on the line, probably 5 guys sometimes, and they're going to be able to line up against Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois. It's really shifting now. If you look at Wisconsin, they're going to more of a pass attack. Michigan is obviously going to start passing it, but because they have better quarterbacks. But I don't think the future of the Big Ten is going to be get the biggest, baddest offensive lineman and run it down everyone's throat. I think the future of the Big Ten is going to be more of the modern offense. USC's coming, UCLA's coming, who knows who else is coming. But yeah, it's shifting, and I just don't think the old school pound it straight up the middle is something we have to be as concerned about. So 3-3-5 might actually be the defense of the future if you're playing against USC's, Ohio State's, Michigan's. All of those things to think about. Caden Massey visited and said our new facilities are the best he's seen from any school he's visited. Yeah, I think a lot of people are thinking that way. I don't know what the facilities are going to look like compared to whoever has the most recent ones, Bama, Georgia, whatever. But I'm sure once we get, all of the videos that pop out in, September? I think they said it'll be all complete by August, September. Once those videos start to pop out, we'll be able to look at Nebraska versus Georgia, Nebraska versus Bama, and decide which ones are actually the best. But yeah, I'm sure Nebraska's going to be up there. They're spending a lot of money on these facilities. The locker rooms are my favorite part because the locker room, right now the locker room's cool, but you see all these modern lockers and these modern chairs where guys can sit. They literally have these pods, and they have when you can chill in your little pod, and then behind you have your whole locker set up, and it's almost like the pods are along this spaceship. You'd have to look up pictures. I mean, I could show you some, but I don't want to get too off topic. Anyway, the facility thing is going to be really cool, and I'm excited for the locker rooms. That's kind of my endpoint. Zoom says, personal question, what do you do for a living outside of YouTube? I'm a digital brand consultant, so I help people build their brands. I had talked about a minute ago helping BroThrow build out their YouTube. So I'm literally creating all their content. I script it, I work with their owner to make all the notes for the videos, and then I created kind of the aesthetic for their brand, and I made it cool, right? I'm trying to make sure that more people who come there are able to sign up and play on their site rather than get lost in transition when they sign up because they don't know how to use the site. So I don't know what I'd call myself. I guess a brand consultant for them. Anyway, I do things like that for celebrities, influencers. I help people to create content. That's the best way for me to put it. I just went on a trip a couple months ago, a great example of what I do. I went on a trip a couple months ago. I took my photographer, videographer. We went to Aruba with this girl I work with. She's an NBA wife. And we did a bunch of content for a week of her clothing brand. And she has a store in Orlando. And then I came back and I was helping a friend who wanted to build out his website. So he wanted to get a bunch of content done and get all these cool videos. So I hired a few different videographers. I came up with the entire aesthetic. And then when we had the aesthetic, they went and shot all of it. And then, yeah, we put it all over Instagram and TikTok. And yeah, I help people basically build their social media, I guess is the safe thing to say. But I typically do it for just a couple clients at a time because I work with people who are on TV and people who have shows. So I have to dedicate a lot of time to making sure that all their content's right when they have a big promotion or push. Vince says, let's turn our trip to Boulder into another home game. Husker Roadshow. I have to assume Nebraska's going to fill up half that stadium. I've talked to a lot of people, and they all say they're going to that game. Guys, I'm getting hot. You can tell I'm turning red. I got to turn on my fan. One sec. When I get going on these tangents, it's just, I heat up. And I got all these lights. It's a lot. Snoz says, hey, buddy, good to see ya. Don't know if you saw in the Discord that I'm back with Nationwide Auto Transport, and I slapped a couple Corn Craze stickers onto the Peterbilt. That's awesome. I don't know what a Peterbilt is, but it sounds really cool that you're able to slap some Corn Craze stickers on there. And I'll have to check the Discord. I haven't been as active in the Discord. I've been working, but I will check it out. I'll make sure. You guys, if you're not in the Discord, there are 700 plus Corn Craze Army supporters who are in there. If you want to join that, all you do is go down to the description box below and you just click the link, and that'll put you in the Discord. And it's a bunch of people talking about Nebraska football every single day. So it's a pretty cool community. We just are able to keep up with each other even when I'm not making videos. Minnie, we had just talked about that in the beginning. I'm going to share it again just so everyone who didn't see the beginning of this video can see it. There was a conversation with Tom Osborne, Matt Rhule, and Trev Alberts 4 days ago. It's got 45,000 views already. So if you want to watch some content with Matt Rhule getting a little bit more of a deep dive than he did in the press conference, just on the overview of coaching philosophy, it's a really good video to watch. That's what Minnie's referring to. And then one more piece of content that you need to watch is this. It's basically about Corey Campbell in the strength and conditioning program at Nebraska. It's the hard knocks that we had asked for. It's almost 7 minutes long. It's a fantastic video. So there's a lot of content out there for this offseason. Thank God. Paul says, Jeff Sims is 6'4", 235. Is that accurate? Can we verify? 235 sounds pretty damn big. He looks pretty skinny. 6'4", 235? I mean, that would be incredible. Anyway, runs a legit 4.4. That's freaking crazy. Has a stronger arm, but his accuracy needs work. Remember, he was recruited for a zone read option offense, and with the new coaching staff, a pro style. Yeah, I would agree on his accuracy needs work, but I'm not sure how good his last coaching staff was, and I'm not sure how good the team around him was, so I still think there's a lot of hope for Jeff Sims. And even if Jeff Sims is only 6'3", 220 and runs a 4.4, 4.45, I still feel pretty damn confident about the direction Nebraska's going in the quarterback room. Dash Camera says, list the 4 most definite Husker losses on the schedule this year. I hate you. I hate you, but I'm going to do it for you. This is not the type of conversation we want to have, but because you're Dash Camera and because you're always here, you're such a loyal subscriber, we're going to do it because you asked. The 4 most definite, call it the 4 most likely losses on the schedule this year. Ugh. Okay. 4 most likely losses. Number 1 is Michigan. I think we can all safely say that. Number 2, in Wisconsin. That's a tough one. I'm going to say that is a top 4. So we'll say Wisconsin. It's going to be cold. Wisconsin's got a new offense. I really like their head coach. Okay, Wisconsin's number 2. Number 3, I'm going to say Minnesota. It pains me to say it. Don't hate me for saying it. But let's talk about the truth. The truth is, currently, Nebraska is a 7-point underdog. That's a lot of freaking points. The book knows. The book doesn't know everything, but the book has a feeling that Minnesota is going to be, decently strong this year. They bring in a really good running back from Western Michigan. They bring in 2 really good wide receivers from the portal. Obviously, that quarterback, what's his name again? It's a weird name. Can't remember off the top of my head. You've got pieces on that offense. You've got a coach who's been there for like 7 years. They're at home on a Thursday night. This one feels like a loss. Okay, that's 3. I got to pick one more loss for you. Okay, well, let's talk about what's not a loss. Colorado, not a loss. Northern Illinois, not a loss. Louisiana Tech, not a loss. Illinois, at Illinois. That's a potential. Purdue at home? No. Michigan State on the road is a potential. Iowa is a potential. What's the most likely out of Iowa, at Michigan State, and at Illinois? Man. You'd probably say at Michigan State, maybe home against Iowa. We're due for Michigan State. Iowa at home. It's such a big rivalry. Oh, man. Iowa or Illinois. Oh, man. I can't give you the last one. I'm gonna defer to chat. Chat, what's more likely? Lose at Illinois or lose at home on senior day to Iowa? It's one of those two. I feel great about Northwestern at home. I feel great about Purdue at home in their coaching transition. I feel decently good about on the road at Michigan State. I feel really good about Maryland. I feel great about Colorado and obviously the non-conference. It's Iowa or Illinois, and I don't want to think about either of them because I don't like thinking about losses. But Dash Camera, I did it for you. I did it for you. But again, defer to chat for that final one. Cody says, I don't think our OC did that great with Rattler. The OC we have now was relieved of duties before the season was done. When Rattler won those games against top teams, it was all Beamer. So I don't know how true it is that he was relieved of duties before season was done. I know there were a lot of rumors that said he didn't call the plays for those last 2 games of the season, but Shane Beamer shot those rumors down. I remember seeing a clip where he specifically shut those down. So I know Beamer had a big play and a big hand in Rattler, but I do think Satterfield obviously was contributing there. Again, I don't want to give all the credit to Satterfield because Beamer was the coach that brought Rattler in, and he was at OU before South Carolina and all that. But I don't think we can take all the credit away from Satterfield. I think that isn't fair. He was there for the entire season. He coached the entire season. He wasn't fired. The relieved of duties is questionable, even though a lot of South Carolina fans claim that that's true. Who knows? Husker for life, thank you for being a member for 4 months. It's good to see you too. Again, everybody who's a member on the channel, you guys mean a ton. And yeah, I think it's been like 6 months since I opened up memberships, and I've got like 150 members of the channel, so that's freaking awesome. And Cody, backing up his interesting statement with Satterfield, I think he'll be gone in a year and a half. Oh, man. I don't know. I don't know if Satterfield is an elite offensive coordinator. I don't know if that's an elite offensive... Sorry, let me rephrase that. I don't know if Satterfield is an elite offensive coordinator with Matt Rhule's assistant trainer. I don't know if he's as good with his assistants or if maybe he... I don't know. Maybe he just wasn't as good in the scheme that Beamer wanted to run. But there's something that makes Matt Rhule believe that he's the right fit at Nebraska. I have to assume he thinks because Satterfield and I have worked together before, I know what his philosophy is, and I know that it meshes well with my philosophy, speaking as Matt Rhule. I have to assume that's the case. Same thing with Raiola. He didn't say Raiola is going to be my offensive line coach because Raiola is an elite offensive line coach at the college level. He said, Raiola is going to be my O-line coach because his philosophy lines up with my philosophy, meaning Matt Rhule thinks he can help Raiola on the offensive line front, right? Help them get whatever it is corrected to make them more than a serviceable unit. And I think that's got to be the same with Satterfield. Who knows? Could be wrong. It's just a guess. David says, outside of Nebraska, I'm really interested to see how Wisconsin changes to an air raid style, preparing for UCLA and USC. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be air raid. I don't think they're going to be air raid. I think they're going to be balanced. I think Luke Fickell's offense at Cincinnati is more likely what Wisconsin's going to run than what they ran over at North Carolina or what they run at other air raid schools like Mississippi State. I do think they're going to throw more than we've seen, right? I think they're going to look more like Ohio State. The Wisconsin offense is going to transition to an Ohio State style of offense, which is a little bit like a USC UCLA offense, I guess you can say. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't know. Good question. Is Arik Gilbert on campus and practicing? Feel like I haven't heard anything about him since committing. Yes, he's on campus. Yes, he's at spring practice. We haven't heard much about him, but there hasn't been much to talk about, I don't think. I don't know how he's performing in drills and all that, but I'm guessing, Matt Rhule did make a comment about him today in the presser, but I'm guessing he's in line to be a starting tight end, not receiver, sorry. Let's see. Okay, my chat just caught up. I got a lot of stuff here. Hang on. Greg says, do we have anyone at the table representing our interests when they add USC and UCLA and abandon divisions? I hope we don't get shafted like our first few years in the league when schedules were built. Nebraska has always gotten shafted with schedules, it feels like, right? Who is it that would be representing our interests? I don't even know whose job that would be. And I don't think Nebraska is going to have much of a say. I think when we abandon divisions, Nebraska is going to be pinned with 2, maybe 3 teams who they rotate with in their, what do you call that? A pod? No. I don't remember what they call it, but there's there's a way that they're going to have 2 or 3 teams play regularly. And yeah, we'll just have to see how it goes. I don't know who's defending the position, though. We're just going to kind of deal with whoever we're given. Husker JPEG says, this is a follow-up, annual conference rivals, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, USC, someone else. It's, who knows? I would hope we would get someone from the West, as in USC or UCLA. I would hope we maintain a rivalry with Iowa, maybe Wisconsin. And outside of that, if we were going to have a third one, you'd want to get someone who's not as consistent, right? I would accept a Michigan State. Purdue, I would accept. Illinois, someone who's, a mid-level school who, as much as I hate to say it, is a Nebraska of the last 10 years. Someone who's not as consistent, not as good. Like a Maryland, right? Who knows? Attila says he just took a look at LSU's locker room. It looks awesome. Well, now that you say it, let's pull it up. LSU locker room. So I was talking about those pods a minute ago, right? And I think Nebraska is going to have something like that. This is what LSU has. See, like little pods. Let me see. That's better. They're like these little pods, like chairs. And it goes all the way down the row. And then you can like lay on these like they're beds. Anyway, LSU has an awesome facility. It's 2021, I think. I don't know when they upgraded it. But it was a $28 million upgrade to their locker room. This is what they had before. Very, not even as good as what Nebraska has now. Nowhere near as good as what Nebraska has now. But now it looks like a spaceship. This is when people are actually in there. Anyway, Nebraska's facility is going to be fantastic. That's all I know. Okay, really quick, before I get back to chat, I saw some things on 3 today. Not today, the other day. But some things I wanted to talk about today. There's actually one thing. Bang! On 3 did the Big Ten coaches rankings per Jesse Simonton. I don't know who that is, but On 3 slapping their name on it. So this is the On 3 coaches rankings in the Big Ten. I thought it was interesting. Want to know what you guys think. Number 1, obviously, Jim Harbaugh. 2, Ryan Day. 3, Luke Fickell. There's some debate here because Luke Fickell has been fantastic at Cincinnati, but what has he done in the Big Ten? Well, because he was able to turn Cincinnati around, I mean, he deserves some credit. It's kind of like when Scott Frost got all that credit for turning UCF around. Remember, when Scott Frost first came to Nebraska, he was automatically a top 3 or top 4 coach of the Big Ten. It just was what it was. So Luke Fickell's getting a lot of credit. James Franklin falls right behind him. Kirk Ferentz at number 5. Yeah, no. That's not a number 5. Brett Bielema at number 6. Fair. Totally agree. Brett Bielema has been fantastic at Wisconsin. He's been fantastic at Illinois. I would move him above Kirk Ferentz 1,000%. Matt Rhule at number 7. I don't feel bad about Matt Rhule at 7. Actually, I feel pretty good about Matt Rhule at 7. It's a fair spot. It gives him room to improve. I think a lot of people would agree with that one. Fleck at number 8. I would say Fleck goes above Ferentz. Ferentz needs to drop down a little bit. Mel Tucker at 9, Fitz at 10, which, come on, why is Fitz at 10? Fitz has been fantastic at Northwestern for what, 15 years outside of the last couple years. I guess if we're going to grade these based on recency, we have to, add our bias in and say Fitz in the last 2 years has been a POS. If you know what that means, you can look it up. So Fitz at 10, Loxley at 11. I can't even believe they're in the same conversation. Seeing Loxley and Fitz next to each other? What? Loxley is night and day worse. Anyway, Schiano at 12, Tom Allen at 13 after a huge 2021. After a really good 2020, he could not maintain. Keep in mind, I think IU is going to be on the way back up. They just got a quarterback transfer from Tennessee. Can't remember his name. 4-star guy who could come in, and they're a quarterback away potentially, so we'll see. Obviously, they have a weak defense, they have a weak offensive line, and a lot of other issues, but quarterback's where you start. And number 14, Ryan Walters, who I cannot believe is at 14 for very long. I think he's at 14 now because he hasn't proven anything, but I don't think he's in the last. I think that he will jump Tom Allen. I think he will jump Greg Schiano. He'll jump Mike Loxley. He'll likely jump Mel Tucker at this rate. Maybe even Kirk Ferentz. Ryan Walters was really good on defense for Illinois. Like, freakishly good. And if he can get the Purdue defense to just emulate that, Purdue's going to be, what, a 7, potentially an 8-win team? I mean, thinking about it, When things change and we go away from the Big Ten West, who's he going to have to play against? Those are the real questions. I don't know. Interesting rankings. I don't totally disagree. I don't totally agree, but relatively fair. Okay. I'm getting through chat, guys. There's a lot that popped up. Jim, thank you for the $10 super chat and for being a member. If I see a message from you, I'll read it off. I don't see anything in here, but I do know you're always commenting on the channel, and I always make sure to respond to your comments because you got the corn, so you pop up really quick. Terrible, just terrible, says James Franklin over Luke Fickell. It's tough. It's tough. Luke Fickell's been really good lately. Matthew says Pat Fitz is severely underrated. It's the recency. You gotta factor in the last couple years. You know what I'm saying? The last couple years, Fitz has been garbage. Garbage. Colin says, what's your Colorado score prediction? That's so early. Can't make a legitimate score prediction, but I do think Nebraska can win that game. I think it's a 3-point game, though. I think it's going to be a battle. They have a lot of good athletes. They have a good coaching staff. They have a lot of motivation. Their fans are going to be on fire. Colorado's likely coming off a loss at TCU. If they're coming off a win, I'm going to be stressed the hell out that week. But yeah, that's going to be a battle. It's going to feel a little bit like a bowl game. You're going to have half the stadium red, half of it black and gold. The environment's going to be unmatched. I cannot wait. That might be the best Colorado-Nebraska environment since either of these two teams were ranked in the top 15 or top 10. I can almost guarantee it'll be the best the best Colorado environment since either of these two teams were ranked in the top 10 or 15. It's going to be fantastic. You're going to have a lot of the Nebraska content creators there, myself included. You're going to have a lot of the Colorado people there, all their former whoever did anything. I'm sure Joel Klatt will be calling the game. It's going to be freaking awesome. Freaking awesome. I can't wait. Nebraska wins by 3, but I'm excited. Husker Tin Man says, out of all the new players on the team, I'm very excited about Dylan Rogers. He's tough and has good awareness and is the future of the linebacking core. Yeah, Dylan Rogers seems like he could be a guy that gets developed pretty quickly. Maybe our Ernest Hausman? Is it him or Eric Fields? I mean, you've got him and Eric Fields. Those were two big-time linebackers that got recruited this year and got brought in and could play, I don't know how soon, but play, relatively quickly. So I'm excited for him as well. It's a good one. Matthew says, Connor, do you wear a lot of Husker gear out and about in LA? And so many Husker fans randomly start talking to you because of it. Yeah, I wear Nebraska gear every day. Every day. Because even when I go out, I at least have a Nebraska hat on. So, and I wear a lot of Corn Craze merch now, right? So, I'm thinking about how many people stop me and talk to me. In LA, not many. LA, it's very rare to have anyone talk to me about Nebraska or about college football in general. Even at the airport, I've got a Nebraska backpack. I got it from Savion Morrison. If you guys watched one of the videos, I bought it from him. Whatever, it's cool. It's got the big Huskers logo on it, the script. Even in the airport, I don't get stopped by Nebraska fans to talk about Nebraska football. But if I see people wearing Nebraska, I typically talk to them. So it's pretty interesting. I don't know. I haven't had that experience where a lot of people want to talk about Nebraska. I have been stopped a lot, though, because they recognize me. That happens frequently. In LA, everywhere, I get stopped. So that's cool. We have a really big community, a Corn Craze community. Cody says, do we have any idea if Satterfield was with a Rhule at Temple or Baylor? I didn't look into this, but if he was the OC at Baylor, I'd be somewhat excited. They hung. Yes, he was the OC? Baylor, he was the tight ends coach. And then at Temple, what was he? I don't know what he was at Temple, but I know he was with him at Temple. And then he was also with him at the Carolina Panthers for 1 year before he went to South Carolina. So, yeah. Oh, here you go. Husker Nation confirmed he's the tight end coach at Baylor, but don't know what he was at Temple. No one's saying what he was at Temple. The conservative Husker says, can our in-practice physicality combined with the strength and conditioning improvement push us for the fourth quarter win? There is no question about it. Nebraska can win against any of these teams they play next year. The schedule is weak. Weak as hell. There are a few games on there I'm worried about. But for the most part, it's weak as hell. JJ says, I heard the Big Ten wants brand names playing every year, and then Nebraska would get saddled with Ohio State, USC, and Wisconsin every year. I would not be surprised. It makes the most sense. When we talk about who the teams Nebraska would play against are, it would be the teams who bring in the most what? The most money. Who would bring in the most money? Nebraska and Ohio State, Nebraska and USC, Nebraska and Wisconsin. It just makes sense. The math adds up. I get it. JJ, you're right. I agree with you. They're probably going to get pinned with some big name tough schools like that. We're not going to get lucky and have to play Purdue every year or Maryland every year. We're getting the biggest, baddest teams because we're the biggest, baddest school. What freaking sucks is, as badass as our fan base is, as diehard as we are, the team has not lived up to it. If they can live up to their side, and then they have this side, which is obviously us and all the other million Nebraska fans out there, we are a force to be reckoned with. We dominate stadiums. We dominate when we're talking about TV and money. We dominate NIL. We dominate across the board for everything because the fan base is so freaking sick. The fan base is carrying Nebraska at this point. It's facts. Nebraska would be irrelevant if it wasn't for their fan base. It's a fact. It just is what it is. But Matt Rhule is going to fix that, because Matt Rhule looked into my eyes and he said, that guy right there, he's so freaking diehard. He's so freaking passionate. He represents what Nebraska is. We need to get them back to where they what? Belong. Nebraska's meant to be good. They're meant to play against Ohio State. They're meant to play against Wisconsin. They're meant to play against USC every year because we want the marquee matchup. We want the biggest, baddest tests. I don't want to watch Nebraska play North Dakota anymore. I want to be like Alabama. I want to be the team who comes in and the other team rushes the field when they beat us. That would pump me the hell up. Every single game would be like drugs for me. It'd be like, get that shit in there. Anyway, that's just my thought. I don't know. Wise Pine says, I just tuned in. What did I miss? Nothing. We haven't talked much. Just got started. Judy, I didn't know you lived in California. There are a lot more pro supporters here than college. Mostly Lakers, mostly Dodgers. Now that football's here, they got a few NFL fans. But yeah, no one's really a college fan here. I mean, they exist, but publicly and walking around on the streets, you just don't see it very much. They exist, though. I'm telling you, they're out here. We got 4 million people or something in like that big of an area. But yeah, just not that many. Not that I run into, at least. And you got to imagine, I'm always wearing, actually, hold on, pause. I was in the gym one day. A guy saw me. He's like pointing at me. I'm going to be honest. In my gym, there are a lot of guys. And obviously, I'm in Hollywood. And so, just like how guys are flirtatious towards girls in the gym, in Hollywood, sometimes you'll get guys who are flirtatious towards guys. So I'm hesitant sometimes to take my headphone out because I'm working out. And I'm cool to make friends, but like sometimes, I got to focus on my workout. I can't be flirting, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, I'm in the gym and the guy's like, tell me take my headphone out. And I'm like, all right. So I do it finally. And the guy starts talking to me and I'm assuming it's going to be, some other kind of conversation. But to my surprise, this time, it was about the shirt I was wearing. I was wearing a shirt that said Huskers across the chest. So I'm like, all right, cool. He starts talking about Nebraska. I'm like, is this a ploy just to get me to talk to him, or is he actually cool? Turns out the guy was a cheerleader at Missouri back in the day, and he knows a lot about the Big 12, knows a lot about Nebraska, obviously had been to Nebraska, the whole thing, so he's really knowledgeable. Super cool. Ended up wanting to get the channel name, so I told him about the channel. He went and watched it, and then I saw him in the gym a couple times. I haven't seen him since, maybe a couple times, but anyway, there are a few people like that who I've talked to in LA, in the gym and wherever, when they see me wearing college football stuff. There are a few, but for every one encounter that I have like that, I have 100 encounters where people don't know anything about college football at all. So, story time. Oh, what is this? Dash camera? I don't know what this means. I'm reading it, and I had to read it 3 times because I'm confused. We're the biggest, fattest school because the food in the dorm, dining centers, is so damn good these days. Freshman 15 becomes freshman 30. I don't know. I didn't go to college. I went to junior college for a couple of years, but I didn't go to like a big school where they had a dining hall. So I don't know what the freshman 15 is. I never had that issue, fortunately, because I was too broke to eat. So, yeah, I don't know. I hope Nebraska's not a big fat school. I don't see many people who are that out of shape when I go to Nebraska. I see some pretty healthy, fit kids on campus. So I don't know what that comment is. That's random. Paul says he went to France with family and in Paris and Nice. Then he went to Jersey and England. Wait. Oh, he couldn't go anywhere without someone stopping to yell, "Go Big Red." That's crazy. Yeah, no, I've had moments where people are yelling, "Go Big Red." That's for sure. It just depends on where I'm at. Barrett, we talked about Anthony Grant a little bit. My general statement was Nebraska's in a really good position with running backs. They've got Irvin, they've got Ramir Johnson, they've got, why do I keep blanking on his name? AJ Allen. I don't know why that's the one name that keeps slipping away. Anyway, they've got some really strong running backs. And if Anthony Grant wasn't going to come back, which I do believe he is, I think this is a temporary break. I think he'll be right back in the fold, in a couple weeks from now. I think they're going to get him right, get his academic situated, and he'll be in line to come in and compete. If they didn't have him, Nebraska's got a stable. They have a lot of running backs who are capable, a lot of guys who could be running back 1. A.J. Allen's a potential running back 1. Gabe Irvin's a potential running back 1. Ramir Johnson already has been a running back 1. So because you've got some proof there, I'm not too worried about it. But we obviously want Anthony Grant back. It would be fantastic to have him, and he provides a lot of value. He's a different type of running back. You've got Gabe Irvin, who's more of the balanced back, who can put his head down, hit a hole hard. A.J. Allen, who's a little bit more shifty. Still, got some power, but more shifty. And then you've got Anthony Grant, who's strict finessed. I don't want to say he's not powerful because we watched him truck the dude at Rutgers last year, and we've seen him break tackles before. But among the three, Grant is definitely the fastest, most agile, and shiftiest, right? So I'm not worried about the running back room. I'm not worried about Grant, and I think he'll get back engaged. Anyway, guys, we've been here for almost 2 hours, hour and 42 minutes to be exact. It was a fantastic show tonight. I'm really happy that you guys all tapped in. We had 365 at our peak, or somewhere like that. We've got 195 likes, so thank you guys for all liking the channel. I'm going to work on making more content. I've got some more ideas for the quarterback competition and for live streams as we hear more in spring practice. Obviously, spring practice day 1 was today, but we have another, 2 weeks of this? And then we've got the spring game, and then the doors will be blown off. So get ready for more content because football season is coming. This year is flying by. Anyway, with all of that said, thank you all for being here. And thank you for supporting the channel, even though we're in the off season and even though news is a little bit slower. I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Go Big Red.